Welcome to the Develop Yourself podcast, where we teach you everything you need to land your first job as a software developer by learning to develop yourself, your skills, your network, and more. I'm Brian, your host. Is it too late to learn how to code? I want to talk about AI, how it's affecting developers, why you should be using it if you're not, how to supercharge your learning, but really I want to address a lot of the fear-mongering I see going on, which I really can't stand. So I went on Reddit a few days ago, mistake number one, going on Reddit. And I started talking to a young person about software development. They were asking if they should go to a boot camp or university or whatever. And I said, if you've already gone to a school, you might want to explore a boot camp or, get mentoring or whatever, right? And let's be completely honest. Let me be very transparent here. I have a vested interest in you going to a boot camp, particularly mine, Parsity. But at the same time, I'm also a software engineer. I stand by the product that I provide and the service we provide. And I went to a boot camp. I've gone to a boot camp after I was employed as a developer. I'll go to more programs like that in the future. I mean, I've just kind of realized over the years that, investing in yourself is one of the best investments. I've seen it, increase my income and all other reasons that I completely believe you should do self-improvement and invest in yourself. But anyway, people dogpiled on this and they just downvoted me and say, in this market, an AI coming to take all the jobs. And I was thinking, wait a second, what are all these experts doing in this room that are somehow not only economics professors, but also AI professors, right? So these people were not only experts in one field, but in two very strange and non-related fields, in my opinion, AI and economics. And they seem to know some stuff that maybe I don't know. So I want to, first of all, get into this fear going on. So the market's oversaturated. No one's hiring. AI is going to steal all the jobs. I heard something very similar to this in 2013 when I was learning how to code. People said offshore developers are going to come take all the jobs. Webflow is going to make front-end development obsolete. WordPress was what people used to talk about, making front-end developers obsolete. Now it's AI. Now it's the market. When boot camps first came on the scene, they were completely not taken seriously. People were getting jobs from them, but it wasn't like the industry was rushing to hire boot camp grads at all. Far, far, far from it. In fact, I was told that you don't want to even tell anybody you went to a boot camp, that it's better to say you're self-taught. So that was the stigma that I dealt with. It's kind of gone away a bit. I mean, there's still a bit of a stigma, but Amazon is hiring tons of developers from boot camps. In general, we've come to accept that boot camps are a thing, and plenty of people that go to universities are also now going to boot camps to supplement their education. Because here's the weird thing that I think that nobody ever addresses. As much as you hear there's an oversaturation or that there's nobody hiring, first of all, every industry is feeling the crunch right now during this economic odd time that we're in. It's a bust cycle. We're going to be heading into a boom cycle if economic history tells us anything. By the way, I'm not an economics professor. I don't pretend to be, but I know that the mega trends in the economy, we tend to go in boom and bust cycles at a very high level. The economy contracts, then it expands. Contracts, expands. How much it contracts or expands, I don't know. Ask somebody much smarter than me. So anyway, I have a real problem with all this fear-mongering online because I think about this kid that's going on there, reading these comments and seeing all these people telling him, you shouldn't learn how to code, AI is going to come destroy everything, and that there's not a single job left open for developers. And I'm thinking, why would you ever tell somebody this, first of all, that you don't know this? Second of all, even if that was true, think about what that means for literally every other profession out there. So if software developers, one of the most difficult skills to acquire, writing the most complex software in the world that runs basically the world, if our jobs are all at stake and no one's hiring because we've just built all the software that's ever going to need to be built at this point, then what does that mean for lawyers, doctors, bus drivers, clerical people, administrative assistants? Are they all just going to go away too? Financial assistants, financial advisors, where do they all go? They all just go away too, I suppose. Listen, everybody is having difficulty finding jobs right now, not just this little tiny drop of software developers out there. Reality is there's a developer shortage, which is going to completely surprise you because no one's talking about that. Yes, there is a developer shortage. I know this firsthand because when we tried to hire a senior software engineer about a year or two ago, it was next to impossible. Every time we got close to an offer, they'd get snatched up. Every time we get another one close to an offer, snatched up for a much higher offer. And I know that you read about the people that have been out of work for, years and are now living in their cars. The reasons why these stories, I believe, make the news is because they're newsworthy. It's not interesting to know that over 90% of the tech layoffs resulted in people getting hired within 6 months, generally for the same or more money than they were making. Not by a large amount, but by a modest amount. So 90% plus of the layoffs of large tech companies, the people that were laid off in the software field, got jobs within about 6 months. Why is it still so difficult, though, to get hired? This is a very interesting one. And so no one can, for sure quantify this. I'm sure that there's ways to deduce this or figure this out through data. But one of the reasons I see, and I think others are also saying, I've read many articles because I was really curious about this. One big one, skill mismatch. So you have people coming out of colleges, which are the most traditional path towards a software engineering career, and their skills are not really in line with what the market wants, right? You don't want a developer that knows conceptual, theoretical things and maybe works with a really lower level programming language like C++. In most cases, you need somebody that, one, has some theoretical knowledge, but also has knowledge of, the full stack applications, JavaScript, modern JavaScript, React. Do you think colleges are teaching that? No, they're not. And it's really hard for them to keep up because their curriculum has to go through tons of hoops to get accredited, and they don't have the same freedom that boot camps do. What boot camps then lack is the theoretical stuff, and then over optimizing on a single language. Is Parsity guilty of that? Perhaps a bit, right? We teach the full stack JavaScript, which is ubiquitous among boot camps. The one differentiating factor, I'd say, or one of the many differentiating factors actually, teaching unit testing, diving much deeper into back-end problem solving, practical problem solving, getting code reviews, getting you more into the developer experience that you're going to see on the job. That's one of the big things that sets Parsity apart, having actual software engineers that are there to guide you and also give you feedback on the code and make sure you're thinking and kind of operating at a software engineer level. So that way when you get onto the market, you not only have the skills, you have a way to display those skills and then also know a bit about the software engineering culture and kind of how to contribute on a team. So that is one of the biggest issues, the big skill mismatch. Two, companies are being very conservative. This is affecting everybody because the more conservative companies are during this economic downturn, what seems like a bit of a downturn, is that they're just not hiring at the rate they are. And also interviews have gotten significantly longer than they used to be. We went through this massive boom and shortage during the pandemic, which is, I think people got in their head that we're going to last in this space for a long time. And if anything, hiring levels have basically gone back down to their pre-pandemic levels. So this idea that every software engineer is getting laid off is just not true. There's a shortage of good developers. Getting the junior job is always tough, always going to be tough, always difficult to find that first job. Takes a lot, and it changes. What used to work 5 years ago doesn't work today. What's going to work in another 5 years probably will be different from what we're doing today. There's a history of fear among developers that they're going to be replaced. So I spoke about Webflow or WordPress, and about 10 years ago it was the offshore. They're gonna move everything offshore to India, and they're gonna not need any more American developers because they can get them for a fraction of the cost in the Philippines or India or Ukraine, for example. And I actually work with a team of devs that are in another country as well, and many people do. Has that replaced all the Americans? Absolutely not. In fact, even during my contracting spree, I went on a contracting streak a while ago, and my buddy, who is the one getting us all the contracts, he was finding that most customers wanted to work with United States citizens, people that spoke perfect English, that they could pay easily and not have to worry about all these hoops to go through the countries they were a part of. And right now, you're probably not even thinking about offshore at all. You're thinking about AI, and you're worried about AI replacing your job. So one, I don't think it's not only not going to replace developers, I think that it's going to be a tool that's going to help developers increase their productivity, and it's going to create a lot more jobs. Let me explain why. If you're not using ChatGPT or Copilot in GitHub, I'd say you're a little bit late to the party and you need to start using those tools. With this important caveat in mind, you should be using ChatGPT to help you learn, to supercharge your learning. You should be using Copilot to supercharge your writing of code as an implementation. You should not be using it to offload your problem-solving ability. Let me explain a little further. So back in the days, which is not that far ago, before ChatGPT, right, pre-ChatGPT, we had Stack Overflow. the site where you go and find all your answers for all the stuff online for the code you're writing. You couldn't figure it out. You go on Stack Overflow. You'd see if somebody had solved it. Then you copy and paste the code. Wrong. Don't do that. I did that. And I've seen people on my teams do that in the past at previous companies. And here's the embarrassing thing that can happen. You copy and paste the code. It works. You put it out into production. It means it gets deployed onto the web. Everybody's enjoying your code. Except then a bug happens. Somebody goes on Slack and says, hey, who just deployed this code? One of the most nerve-wracking things you can ever read in a chat. And you're saying, that was me. Saying, hey, this is breaking significantly. It's causing a huge error. It's Friday afternoon. We need you to get on this right now. By the way, this is also the reality of software development. Something bad happens on a Friday afternoon or a Saturday morning. Guess who's going to have to wake up and fix it? You, my friend, if you're on call duty. Talk about that another time. Anyway, so now you have to go and fix the code. And somebody says, hey, what was the intention of this code? Somebody asks, what was this supposed to do? And you don't know because you copied and pasted it without knowing. That same thing can happen now with ChatGPT, but at lightning speed. You can give it a problem. You can even give it some code and say, improve the code, make it do this. I want it to do that. You can have it work. And it may work for many use cases. In fact, it may work for everything you want. But the moment you need to update it, which you always will, at some point you'll need to update the code. Your name is going to be attached to that code forever. Using Git and GitHub, it's very easy to trace the history of something that a person wrote. And it happens all the time. It's not for like a blaming thing. Sometimes it is. But most of the time it's just to know like, oh, who wrote this? So now I can go ask them, what was the intention of this? And if you cannot explain it, that is going to be a not good place to find yourself in, because that can lead to really awkward conversations like, well, if you didn't write this, then who did? And also, if you don't know what it's doing, then why would you ever want to put this in here? And you could ask ChatGPT to explain it more, which is exactly what I would do. So when I'm writing code now, and this is after 10 years of writing code professionally, I use ChatGPT all the time. But I like to ask it to explain things to me. For example, I might be learning Rust or trying to understand some PHP code. Do I want to be an expert in this? Probably not. But if I see some code that I don't understand, I'm going to ask it to explain it line by line. I'm going to ask it how it can teach me through some basic challenges how to do something. It can review code that I've written to see, act as a senior developer and review this code. What would you change and why? These kind of questions can lead you to get much better at writing code, give you some practical feedback, and then even give you challenges to help you increase your knowledge of this like new language or framework that you're using. I love asking it for challenges, by the way. I'm going to give me a small challenge that would teach me X using X. So give me a small challenge using JavaScript that might teach me promises. Tell me what the input and the output should be, and give me some, parameters that I should be using in this challenge. And it will give you something to do. It'll probably be pretty generic, but that's okay. When you're just learning, excellent way to do it. Copilot. GitHub Copilot, by the way, is a tool you can install within VS Code, and it will auto-complete code for you. It won't just auto-complete it for you. It will write out full lines, full functions, full, like near paragraph, multi-line functions out for you with comments, with tests. It can do a lot. And you may be thinking, well, damn, if it can do all that, then what do they need to hire a junior developer for? Okay, so I was at Starbucks over the weekend, and I was updating a web service for Parsity.io, coding school, plug, that I own, right? So I was updating a web service for there that was it was showing students. It was a student server to show students that are currently in the program. And I had to update some logic for a CSV file. So basically, think of an Excel sheet. And I was trying to get ChatGPT to help me transform the data in the columns to a format that was appropriate for the web service I was building. And I thought this would take 15 minutes. Half an hour into it, I was still trying to get ChatGPT to give me the correct code, because I said, you've almost got this correct, but you're missing X, Y, and Z edge case. It would continue to update the code and continue to give me wrong answers. I won't lie to you, I was there for over 2 hours, and I don't know why I didn't just write it myself, because it would have been a hell of a lot faster to do that, but it just could not get the right answer for me. So I ended up using most of its answer and then having to do my own custom logic to make it work correctly. And one of the big issues with ChatGPT is, one, it's been trained on recent code and mediocre code. It's been trained on the internet, The internet is not all like the best of the best code out there, right? It's just the code that's been written out there that is publicly available. And so if it's been trained on this set of data that is publicly available and mediocre at best, what do you think it can give you? What if you ask it about a very specific problem, one that it has no context for or hasn't seen before? It's not all knowing. It's just trained on a bunch of stuff on the internet, and it can kind of regurgitate this stuff to you. And it can statistically tell you what the next logical thing to have happen after the preceding thing. So you give it a word, for example, and it says, well, logically, in this context, the next most likely word you're going to use in this sentence is this. And it does obviously much more than that. I'm not a data scientist and don't pretend to be a statistician, but this is what it's doing. It's mathematically assuming, what's going to be next in your sentence or code, or whatever, and it knows that based on tons of data on the internet. The problem with that is, what if you have a unique problem? What if you have a very modern problem? Like, let's say you're using a framework that just came out. How is ChatGPT going to know that? It doesn't have that data that it's been trained on yet. So how could it possibly know what to do? It does not. I've tried to use it at work for things like that, and that's where it falls short. So if you think you can replace an entire developer team with ChatGPT or some AI tool, way far away. And I don't care who tells you different. Either that person that tells you different, one, doesn't write anything interesting as far as coding goes, or two, is getting they have some sort of service to sell you about why you should be using AI or something in your workflow, or want to sell you some tool or service. I believe these tools are awesome. I use them every single day. Could it replace a single juniorist person on my team? 100% no, 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 no. Let me tell you something about writing code. Writing code is not easy, but understanding what people want and gathering the requirements is even harder. When you're writing code, you're dealing with humans, and they have unclear requirements. They say, I want a button. And you say, cool, here's a button. And they say, okay, I didn't just want a button. I want a button that when you click it, it sends some data to a third-party data integration that tells me who clicked it, what region they're in. Also, on top of that, I want it on this page. I wanted to use this other third-party service we use as our content management system. I want it this shade of blue. I want you to talk with our creative director to make sure that that button also is in line with the other buttons on the other side. So next thing you know, and this is obviously a contrived example, but not really, actually. I mean, when you get humans in a room at a large company, or even a small company, you have to satisfy many, many needs. How could these people, by the way, translate their needs to code that works while also making sure that they haven't created tons of tech debt, haven't created legal issues, haven't created compliance issues, haven't opened up the door for all sorts of attacks or just things to go wrong? What if it's not exactly how they want it? How can they describe technically what they want it to do if they are not technical people? Remember, code is actually an abstraction for the logic, right? Code boils down to machine code. So you're already dealing with an abstraction when you're just writing code. But if you're removed even further from that abstraction, like literally talking like I am into a mic and saying, I want you to produce code that does what? How would you know? If you're a product manager or a designer, how could you, articulate that in a complex way enough that a ChatGPT model could understand? You can't. So I want you to get it out of your head, this idea that when it's too late to code, or that AI is just going to take away all these jobs. I'll be honest, it could probably take away a job like a person that makes, emails or something like that, HTML emails, which used to be a more popular job for developers. It was a nice way to get into the industry. You could write HTML templates for emails. I still honestly think that's going to be hard for an AI to do completely correctly based on a human's requirements. Anyway, you need to be using it though. Like I've said, use it for learning by asking it questions to review your code, asking it for challenges. And lastly, I want you to try this out. For those of you that know how to code already and you could use some more advanced stuff to get deeper into AI, I don't think you should maybe learn AI or learn machine learning, data science, statistics, unless that's what you want to do. For sure, do it. I did actually, and I had a lot of fun. There's a site called Kaggle.com, which has a lot of really great resources and playgrounds for learning things like pandas and Python and using data to make inferences on, tons of little data sets they give you. But here's what I think you should do. And there's actually, in the show notes here, there's a link to an AI project using Node, Express, and the OpenAI API. OpenAI, by the way, is the API that powers ChatGPT. And you're seeing it everywhere nowadays. Everybody's leveraging their own model, but I don't think there's going to be infinite amount of models out there. I really don't. I think we're going to have a few that are going to rise to the top. OpenAI, obviously, Gemini, other models out there that I'm probably unaware of. I think it's more important to understand how to leverage these and then use them. So for example, OpenAI has an API, and the challenge that's in the show notes here, if you click on it, you'll go to a GitHub repo. It'll walk you through how to use it, how to set it up, how to set up an account, how to set up the API token, how to train a model, and then how to get some data back. That's pretty interesting. You could build all sorts of cool stuff with this. You could build a chat bot for like an e-commerce store. You could train it on your voice and tone and writing style to have it write stuff for you, which is one of the examples I show in there. You could use it to maybe make like a trainer bot, like, a personal trainer or something like that. Anyway, most companies are using OpenAI API under the hood, meaning they're not making their own model. There's an interesting story out there, PDF.ai. I believe that guy is literally, he had like $1 million business, I believe at this point, literally just using OpenAI. Like it's called like a wrapper. It's what I call a wrapper service, where he has his own app. It wraps around OpenAI API. He, proxies requests to the OpenAI API, and then he'll use that data to surface some insights about a PDF. But did he make like the large language model or make his own AI? No, he's just using that. And if you go on wellfound.com, you'll see a lot of AI in quotes companies that are essentially doing the same thing. And if you work for a company like, let's say, Allbirds or some e-com company, do you think they're going to make their own AI for those chatbots and things like that? Or do you think they're going to leverage OpenAI API or some other one? So learning how to work with APIs, like these kind of basic things, and work with these specific ones is going to take you really far, in my opinion. That's a bet I'm making. That's why I made this challenge for you to hopefully enjoy. And if nothing else, I hope I've just quelled the fears, or at least put out a different opinion out there on this whole AI and market madness that is going on. Got me so annoyed. Anyway, you should ultimately do what you want to do. If you want to learn to code, first of all, I can't think of a skill that is going to be more in demand, not just statistically, but just for your own personal benefit and gain. It's highly paid, very fun to do if you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then maybe I wouldn't do it. But if you do, don't let people stop you from pursuing it, whether it's with Parsity, whether it's with a mentor, whether it's with self-teaching, whatever you want to do it. Do not try to time the market. Think about the people that made money off crypto. Do you think they waited for the market to hit or be in an advantageous position? No, they got in when they got in, right? Maybe a better example is getting in shape or something like that. Is there a bad time to get in shape? Probably not. Many people wait for the new year to get in shape. Why would you do that? I don't know. Just do it now. Why would you wait for the market to correct itself to learn to code? Wouldn't you want to learn to code before the market corrects itself? And then you could be like first in line for like the boom cycle. To me, that makes more sense. But hey, what the hell do I know? If nothing else, have fun with that freaking challenge. If it's way too complex, check out dev30.xyz. And if you're having trouble setting it up or anything like that, reach out to me. My information is in the show notes. See you around. That'll do it for today's episode of the Develop Yourself podcast. To learn more about becoming a software engineer with us, then check out Parsity.io. If you're not quite ready for that, then jump into our dev30.xyz program, which is 30 days of working on your mindset, habits, and JavaScript skills. Totally worth it. See you next week.